So you're looking to build a kit for a Cessna 185, something in the, 80 to 90 inch wingspan era, and you just can't find one. And you know what? That's because there isn't one made, at least not one that I could find. However, desperate times, desperate measures, you got to get resourceful. So I bought that kit, which you're probably familiar with, the Topflite Cessna 182, and I converted it to a, sorry, I'm trying to get my camera right here, to a 185. Let's go with that. There we go. So I thought I'd share with you how I did that in case you want to do that. It's actually really fun and not terribly difficult. Most of everything you need is in the kit already. A brief review of a Cessna 182 versus a Cessna 185. First of all, obviously a Cessna 182 is a nose dragger. So the kit comes with a nose wheel that goes here, which means you need to rebuild the gearbox and move the gear back. I'll tell you how I did that. The cowling, the motor, well, not the real motor in the full-scale airplane. The real motor is bigger on a 185 than it is a 182. But as far as what it looks like on the outside, the windscreen, the cowling, the wing, the fuselage, with the exception of the back, which I'll get to in a minute, is identical between a 182 and a 185. There's no difference. The wings are the same. It's the same wing on a Cessna 182 and a Cessna 185. Okay, we covered the gears different. The Cessna 182, back in the 70s, they thought it was really neat to add a rear window, so they cut this down like this. So there's a rear window on a 182. Got to get rid of that. And of course, the tail's different. This is the telltale of a 185, is this heavy dorsal and the more vertical stab, versus a 182, which has a long, much longer, skinnier dorsal and a swept back tail. Look like that. That's a 182 tail. You can see how I've drawn a 185 vertical stab right here. So how did we do this? Well, the gear on a 182 looks like that. That's how this kit's built. There's a block that goes between this bulkhead right here and this bulkhead right here. Well, we had to change all that. So I believe, it's been a while since I did this, so forgive me here, but this block right here, this is where I actually put the landing gear block on this airplane. So there's a bulkhead right here. I moved the bulkhead to here. You can see my line right here. And that's where it lives. And to see it, unfortunately, I can't take this apart for you because I got it all put together. I'm not going to do that. Let's see. Can we see it? I don't think we can see it. I'm going to go like this. I don't think you can. Let's see. You might be able to. I think you can see down in there, forward of the radio gear in that little area down in there. You couldn't see it even if I took the wing off because I got wires in there. That's where this block is, okay? Now on a 185 and a 180, 185, 180, the same airplanes except a bigger motor, and they changed to a bigger, fatter dorsal back here. So you can build this as a 180 or a 185. And actually a 185's windows go back farther than this. So this is kind of a hybrid 180 to 185. I tried to make it look like a 185 with the window like this. And by the way, that window's upside down. I'll cover that more in a second. The landing gear comes out just a hair, like right there. See where the strut hits there and the landing gear's right there? That's what it looks like on a 185. There's no fairings on the strut on a 185, not even from the factory. They didn't come that way. That's spring steel gear. This is carbon fiber. You got to find one of these that scale the right size. Really hard to do. These carbon fiber gear come in. They seem like a lot of sizes, but man, finding this distance right here and also finding this angle, which is, when you look at all the millions of photos of a 185, that's not easy to do. And then you'll end up cutting this gear. You can't see it because it's up inside here, but you'll cut the gear off. And because you're gonna, it won't be wide enough, and you're gonna move it out, and you'll put some screws in it like that into that block. Okay. All right, so that's how you do the gear. You're gonna have to, if you just wanna look at what I did, that is the scale location of the block right there. And from there, you know, it's just fun to figure it out. I looked at so many Google images of 185s and 180s to figure out where stuff went, like that landing gear. Now this window setup right here, a 182, obviously we already mentioned, goes back like this. So these windows don't look anything like this. And in fact, the window, this is the window they give you in the kit right here. That's just a piece of covering, okay? This is not two different windows. This is one window. Piece of covering to give you the illusion that it's two. And what's really weird, I didn't notice this until I built this kit, is this window is virtually identical to a 182. It's just upside down. So believe it or not, this window I'm touching with my finger, which is on the left side of the plane, is actually supposed to be on the right side of the plane. So notice how it kind of teardrops up. You see that? This window is, if you had to say, what's it doing? It's going up back here, not going down. We'll take a look at the drawing, which is kind of hard to see because I got the plane in the way. It's teardropping down. See that? That's because there's a window back here. So that's what a real 182 does look like. But a 185, when you look at the photo, it's easy. You can use the same window. Just flip it over, and you just got to rebuild that skin ever so slightly so it looks like that. And then I just put a piece of covering right there to give the illusion of a 185. A 185's rear window actually comes back a little farther than this. This window is a little bigger. I mean, it goes that way a little more. But you know what? You got to draw the line somewhere on the scale details here. Okay. Now, how do you do this instead of this? Because remember, this, the way this comes out of the kit, this is way down on 182 and goes back. Mine, this line right here, this pencil line right here represents the back of the fuselage right there. It's simple. You just use the same stringers they give you here and rebuild a few bulkheads and bring them up. You know, you got to get out your jigsaw and get some 1/8" plywood or whatever. And actually, I think I used the very same ones they gave me. I just stretched it out here, put a piece of filler in here, I think, if memory serves. In fact, let's take a look. I'm not sure we can even see anymore, but that's what it looks like. Let me get rid of some glare here. So I think you can see, maybe you can't. Like, I can't tell by the phone. I did this a year ago, folks. I'm sorry. I do see the stiffener doublers I put on the back there. You can see the control rod going through, and I used the same ones, and I just put a filler between them to make it bigger. And that's, you know, the side. If you look at the side of a 185, it looks just like that. It's very squarish, blockish looking, although this has a gentle round curve. Okay, some of the giant scale 185s you see are not scale at all. They're just literally a square box, and that doesn't look good because that's not what the real one looks like. It does have a mild curve. So I think I used the same bulkheads, just raised them up and put fillers in here, okay? And then used these same stringers and added some more notches in the filler for more stringers. I think I bought a few more of the 3/16, these 3/16 balls of stringers. Anyway, when this all integrates back here, a little more fun, which means a little more challenging, a little more work. But this is just a solid piece of wood right here, and I put ribs right here, and then this is all sheeted, okay? And then this is, I actually used a lot of the same ribs that are in the vertical stab of the 182 for this 185. Now, how did I get this dimension? How did I know what this was scale? That I did off of a computer screen, scaling it from a 185, getting profile views of a 185 online, and I measured it, and I mean, give or take 1/8 of an inch, it's very close. I measured, you know, all the distances between points based on photographs of a 185. I was able to measure, say, starting from some known place, like maybe the front of the cowling or the front of the door, or the cockpit door, or the window, or something, and I was able to get these dimensions and scale them onto this drawing, which of course then translates into this. So this is not rocket science, folks. It's actually not hard to do, and you can see this is just a lot of work, a lot of feathering, a lot of sanding to get it, you know, nice and smooth. And this was fun here. It's a big fillet of wood here, trying to get this to all come together. That was a challenge. So that right there, I mean, just this dorsal and this vertical stab, that took me a couple of days of fussing around with to get it right. And then the vertical stab is the same. You're going to build the same vertical stab as a 182. The difference is these counterweight tabs, okay? On a 182, on most modern Cessnas, it's a square, just like, well, let's see. It looks like, sorry, well, it looks like that right there. So you can see it is squared off, right? That is not what a 185 looks like. A 185 has an angle about like that. Again, I scaled that, okay? Used all the same parts that came with the kit, just cut the wood right there instead of cutting it like that. Very simple, okay? This one does the same thing. Look at a picture of 185, it goes like this. That's what it looks like. It does not go square like on a, well, the 182 vertical stab is totally different. There actually is not a counter tab or whatever you call it on a 182. So again, just scaling. This is all solid balsa. Pretty basic stuff, really. A few things I'll tell you also. These little suckers here, man, this takes a long time, but is it worth it? They look awesome, and you use the super thinnest CA you can possibly find, and then you got to get a bag of these things. These are those little tips that you put on the end of CA bottles that have like microscopic little thingamajibbers in there that allows the thin CA to wick out very, very, very controllably, and you'll have these laying flat on the table, and then you'll just put a drop here and it'll go whoosh, and it'll wick right down there. That's after you've covered it with Ultra Coat. Do that for all the control surfaces, and oh my gosh, that's going to take you days, okay? And laying it out, cutting them, and then actually holding them when you put them in place. I built a jig to get them all spaced out the same. That's a time cruncher. You got to have some extra time on your hands to do that. A couple other tips I'll share with you. You'll notice, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but you'll notice just how nice that looks right there. There's no accident there. A lot of sanding, a lot of filling. Same thing with the wing. Tremendous amounts of fine sanding to get rid of that grain. You know, you get these ARFs from overseas, and they just look terrible. This is all the wood grain. The fact that the sheathing wasn't sanded at the seams. You can't really see that here, but just popping up, and it looks horrible. I did everything. Well, here you can sort of see it in this seam. You can see a little seam right there. That bugs me. But you can't get them all out. But you sand it all the way down to like 400 grit. Then you pop the grain with water, sand it again. Lots of filler. Use that lightweight balsa filler, and just get it super pretty. And then the most important thing is how you put on the Ultra Coat. This is one piece of white Ultra Coat that goes around the whole airplane. Okay, the seams are on the bottom. And there's a seam here, actually, and a seam here. But this particular section, which is very visible on the airplane, all the way back to here is one piece, okay? Well, this is a separate piece than this. But when you cover this, you're going to want to shrink it. And it's not a straight line. This goes up like this a little bit and goes around. And it does not want to conform to it. But if you put a heat gun on it carefully, long enough, it'll shrink and look like that. I used one sheet of white Ultra Coat to do the top. No seams in the middle here, nothing. Of course, the real 185, there is a cut line here because the wing comes off. But again, you got to draw this looks different on a 185 too. This section of the wing is built as part of the fuselage. So there's no line here, but you got to take the wing off. So what are you going to do? And I put little covers over the screws with Ultra Coat. Doing the wingtips. This is a time cruncher, okay? Carving that little shape right there. Just take your time and shape it and carve it and then shrink it. And this isn't perfect. You're gonna see some wrinkling and stuff in here. Almost impossible to get that all out. Well, I'm sure somebody can do it, but I had a hell of a time with it. But anyway, I'll show you a few of the little tricky scale details. Put these guys on. These are little tiny pieces of piano wire I bent and just stuck in there. God, that looks just like I'm a pilot too. I used to flight instruct in these things all the time. That looks just like the grab bar on a Cessna. And then this little step, I think I made that out of a piece of thin aluminum, painted it white, put a little black sandpaper on there, just stuck it onto the side. Looks just like the step. This step here, just two simple little strips of aluminum that I cut. It's all CA'd together. Put a little sandpaper on there, so you can, when you step up, and then you check the fuel. I did not put the fuel tank lids up here, but whatever. What else did I do? I painted that. I covered that first, and then actually that's the same covering as this, but I painted it with flat black because that's what it would kind of look like on the real one. The problem with these Topflite kits is that black, the real Cessna, the full-size Cessna does not have a big black, it doesn't have anything right there. It's hitting the pilot's head right there. But, it's structural to this wing, so there's nothing you can do about it. So I just painted black to make it go away. And then I just covered the frame the best I could. It doesn't look great, but, when you get back this far away, it looks fine. This paint, okay, go down to your automotive paint supplier and look through their chips of the different paints they sell. Take a piece of Ultra Coat with you. Put a piece of Ultra Coat on a piece of wood perfectly like it's part of the plane, so it's smooth like this. Don't just take the roll or a piece of Ultra Coat in, because it won't work. Put it on a flat piece of board, iron it on, get it so like it's super perfect. Take it in and look at the color swatches. Don't have them match the paint to this. It won't match. Trust me, I've done that on so many airplanes. You pick out the chip on the booklet they have that looks the closest, and you'll get pretty close, and you can see that's pretty darn close. It's not perfect. You could critique that this is maybe a little different. This camera's making it look worse than it really does. Standing here, I'm looking at both, and I would say it was exactly the same color if I was looking at it with my raw eyes instead of the camera. And also the white, which is, I can see this different in real life. You can probably see it more so on the camera, but it's so close that no one's gonna notice. That sticker comes with a kit. This is just done with a Sharpie, okay? And those little things come with a kit, but it really adds a lot of detail when you do that. Putting on these lines of Ultra Coat just takes time, takes a low heat and a lot of time, and a couple of do-overs. You can come up with whatever paint scheme you want. So when you do this, you gotta do it right. It's gotta look cool, right? So the 185 has a couple of lights right there, okay? So there, I've got what's called Unilight, okay, which is just go to DreamWorks RC in Florida. There's another one on the West Coast, I forgot the name of the place, that deal with, this is a high-end lighting company that makes high-intensity LEDs for RCs. And it has a control board inside that you program into your radio. So, like this airplane, I put a nav light on each wing with a strobe, and these are built in. Let me turn it off so you can see what that looks like. It looks like that. Okay, let me see if I can focus that for you. Okay, so here comes, boom. And those are so bright that in the brightest sunny days, you can see these lights. Okay, at night, it's blindingly bright. This top anti-collision light, or beacon rather, which you can program this to do whatever flashing sequence you want, but that's what it has the rear white navigation light, which again, that just sticks inside the cone, which is painted. Okay, this is the same as the 182. I didn't change any of that, same thing. And then on the other wing is the green light. Don't need to show you that. Tail wheel, I think I used stuff I had laying around. A real 185 actually has a bar that comes back here. It's about this long. So this scale ratio is about like that, but it has a bar that comes back to something that looks kind of like this. There were some scale ones I could have bought for like $200 and I didn't. I just used stuff I had laying around from other airplanes. This is just a piece of carbon. Actually, that's a piece of aluminum. Take that back. And then this was off of something I forgot. And then these wires, which of course are not here on a 182, just run up to your servo. No sweat, just like any other tail wheel or rudder wire setup you would ever do. That's what it looks like on a 185. It looks just like this, okay? Looks just like that. The way I have the elevator and the rudder controlled is exactly the way it is in the kit, which has a bar right here that controls the elevator. It comes down as a little, it's all concealed. You don't see it, right? It goes up to the servo. And then the rudder has a bar that goes up, this out of the way, bar that goes up right there, okay? and it has a thing that goes to the thing. So that's just obviously turned more vertical from my 185, but again, it's all concealed. You can't see it, okay? Now, this is an electric airplane, not a glow airplane. So first of all, since I'm standing here, the flaps are awesome because they actually go back up into the wing like a real Cessna, and they come down and out. So you can see there's big airspace there. It's just like a real Cessna 185 or 182, same wing, okay? I don't know, this isn't too exciting, but there's your rudder, there's your elevator, okay. Now, the motor. The motor, on this, I used a Dual Sky. It's a 1515 kV Dual Sky motor. I don't know if you can see it in there or not. Let's try that. In fact, here you can see the name of the motor, I think. You might want to just, if you really, really want to know what motor it is, you can still this and figure it out. Let's see. I'm trying to get it to focus. It's not going to do it. Anyway, it's a Dual Sky 1515 kV motor. I can't remember. It's like maybe an 80 amp ESC in here or something. 16.7 prop. Plenty of power, very light. Now you're wondering, how do you get a battery in and out of this thing? Because there's no hatch in the wing, okay? You can't open up the cowling. You can't open the door. There's just like, what are you gonna do? Well, I had to get resourceful, and it actually works sweet. So on the bottom, between the gearbox that I built, which is right here somewhere, I'm doing this in the blind, forgive me, and up here, there is kind of a space. So I put a magnetized hatch that I pull off. I'm just gonna go like this so you can see what's happening in there. I can't, I'm hoping you can see this. I'm just gonna go like that. And basically I'm running I think I run normally a 4,000 milliamp 6S pack in here. And that's Velcroed sideways, not long ways, but sideways, up. It barely fits into this, but it does, up, and there's a strap hanging down, and I have to put this battery on the blind, but it's not hard to do. I mean, I can reach up there, and I know where everything is, so I feel it with my fingers, push it up against the firewall, and then push it up against the Velcro. I can get the strap, here, I'll just show you. I can pull this strap off like this, and I can pull the battery down like this, and then I pull it out. Which way is it? I'm doing this while holding the phone, so forgive me. And I go like this, and then the battery comes out. Okay? Very simple. When you to change the battery in here, it takes 30 seconds. So, and then you slap the hatch back on, a couple of magnets, one there, it holds it in, okay? And it's invisible in flight, can't see it at all. So, trying to think if there's anything else you're wondering about how to convert a Topflite 182 into a Cessna 185. It's fun to do. It took me about 200 hours to build this plane start to finish. I didn't try to accelerate, make it happen super fast, but I wasn't. It's just most of the time, believe it or not, was figuring out scaling up all this stuff. So I'm just trying to give you every angle in case you want to know what I did here. I think I've told you everything. I'm trying to think here. I think I've told you everything I can think of. That is a Cessna 185, and when it's flying, and by the way, this thing flies amazing. And I will throw in one little anecdote here. Those of us that fly RCs, we take pride in how well we fly and everything else. And I'm a pretty decent stick, but I'll tell you right now, RC airplanes, when they fly, no matter how good of a stick you are, any bump in the air, the airplane is, it's doing this. And it makes it look like a model airplane in the sky, which, it's not a bad thing, but if you want to fly a scale airplane and make it look like a real airplane in the sky, first of all, don't fly too fast. But second of all, put a gyro in it. This airplane has an Aura 5. That's that thing right there, okay? Sold through Flex Innovations, I believe. And you program it on the computer, and it's a 3-axis gyro. Well, it's 6-axis, whatever. 3-axis gyro, ailerons, rudder, and elevator. And it's not there to keep the airplane flying for you. That's not what it's for. What it does is it stabilizes the plane. I use it in every plane. I use it in warbirds, There's an extreme flight. Actually don't use it in that because I fly that 3D. That's kind of cheating. I don't do that. But, you know, that P-51 sitting down there, big boy, it's a 89-incher, makes it just fly on rails. It just looks so real when it's flying because any little bump in the air, it takes care of it. There's no human being that can respond quick enough to make it look real because a real airplane doesn't bobble around the sky like that from the perspective of being on the ground. So put a gyro in your scale looking airplanes if you want them to look real when they're flying. And then don't fly too fast. That's another thing people do. So this airplane flies fantastic, super slow speed, put little approach flaps in. You can do a slow flyby walking speed almost. Anyway, really have enjoyed building this and enjoyed flying it. I've flown it at least 100 times. Starting to get a lot of wear and tear on it. Painted the gear and that's kind of coming off. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section and I'll get back to you. Okay, enjoy. Bye-bye.